Been a busy week for you last week and all with all the bio conference thing, BioAsia thing and everything else, NASCOM and all. I am here to actually introduce a new concept to you all. It's called batchtag.com. What we are looking to do is completely change the way retail is done in the world. So I don't think there's any other company in the world at this point of time who does anything similar to what we're doing. And we will of course run through the slides and all for you. But let me just lay out the problem as we see it in the current retail scenario. So what happens is most of the retail, all retail is today basically done by forecast. The supply for the retail side is always done by forecast. So either the manufacturer or the designer or the distributor or the retailer, one of these guys thinks that he can sell certain number of products of certain style or certain color or certain size and places an order with the factory. And this obviously is not a super efficient process because no one really knows what is actually going to sell out there. So there's a lot of inefficiency in this. One, you end up actually making a lot of product, may or may not sell. We all know, every 6 months, all companies have to dump a lot of their stuff and put it into 50%, 60% kind of, discounts and all. And that's a result of some guy not forecasting the demand properly and actually making some stuff which no one really wanted to buy at full price. That's one. When you make these products this way, when you're actually making the products before the customer has asked for them, you're also taking on a big inventory holding cost. There's also a big warehousing cost. But most importantly, I don't think anyone really minds both these costs. The biggest cost for most companies is the wastage which is involved in this whole thing. Obsolescence, as you would call it, right? So, lot of times you end up basically seeing all these things. They think, the hot new fashion this year is going to be like, green or something like that. You just get one, shade of green wrong. It's all lying out there in the shelves. And this basically adds a lot of cost to the consumer, given the fact that, they're not really sure how much of what will sell, one. And two, they are also not able to predict what will sell. Both these reasons actually end up with a big supply-demand mismatch, which leads to a very, very high cost. And, we can talk about that. The other thing is, all retail today is done. There's a complete hierarchy of things which goes on. The manufacturer makes it, gives it to a CNF agent sometimes, or gives it to a wholesaler or a big distributor. This guy goes and gives it to a retailer, and the retailer himself has a huge amount of stock and everything else out there. Given the fact that there are several layers out there and there's a lot of uncertainty around the whole process itself, the cost to the end consumer becomes pretty high. Just to give you an example, in places, and these markups can be significantly high. There are products which end up actually costing just 10 rupees to make and end up actually selling at around 100 rupees as a MRP. And there are some which basically go anywhere between 50. And again, it depends on the turns on the inventory. There are some products which typically, like the leather goods and wallets and everything else, have a markup of 6 to 7x. Whereas something which sells a little bit more faster, like ACs or fridges and all, typically has a markup of 2x. That is pretty much the standard. I don't think there's anything which comes out of a factory which is not marked up at least twice by the time it reaches the consumer. So we're looking to address these two things. One, the whole forecast-led thing which leads to a lot of inventory wastage and everything else. And the second, the layering out there, which basically is also causing a lot of problems. Now you could also say that most of the internet companies have actually succeeded in delayering some of it, but they themselves continue to hold the inventory. If Amazon is selling you some stuff or Flipkart is selling you some stuff, there is someone out there holding the inventory, if not Amazon itself. In a lot of cases, it's directly the internet guys. They're holding these huge inventories, and there's a cost to it. Someone is paying the cost for it, right? Today, it's the venture capitalist paying the cost, and that's why all of us are getting discount. But eventually, this is not a sustainable model. People will have to pay the cost of all this excess inventory out. We think our model is near perfect. While, okay, it has its own things out there. We think, this is a solution. Batch tag is a solution which basically takes care of all this. So what's our solution here? Again, coming back to the consumer side. See, all of us would love to buy at factory prices or wholesale prices. Right? We were all chasing this whole thing, trying to call people and saying, can I get a discount? Can you get me a wholesale price and all that sort of stuff. But wholesalers or factory guys can't, by definition, be selling each individual customer at that. They have to make things in bulk, and that's how their advantage comes in. And for some, minimum order quantity could be 200, for some it could be 2000. But there's always a quantity beyond, there's always a quantity which is way higher than what individual customer can ever buy. What does batch tag do? It is a platform which allows customers to actually come and buy in single units at factory direct prices. We aggregate customers across the country for every single product out there, push the order directly to the factory, QC the product at the factory level and ship it to the customer so that everyone is able to enjoy a price which is actually as close to factory price as it can be. Given that we are a platform, our markup is going to be very, very low. So you're literally buying it. Let's say you're buying a carpet from us, you're buying it from the guy who's making it in Bhadohi or Mirzapur. He's the guy who's actually weaving it. The money is most literally going directly to him. If you're buying, let's say, a nice sari from Venkatgiri or whatever, you're literally buying it from the weaver in Venkatgiri. Or if you're buying, let's say, the leather wallets and everything else, you're buying it from the guy in Calcutta or Kanpur. So that's the concept out here. Factory direct. Right? And the way we are achieving it is obviously using technology to put together, to bring together a virtual group which wants to buy these products and then pushing the orders to the manufacturer, making it and sending it out. Our guarantee to you that the discounts are going to be at least 40 to 80% on the market operating prices. Even if you take the discounted price of any of our competitors out there, any of the online portals, it could be Amazon, Flipkart, or it could be Urban Ladder or Pepperfry or any of these guys, we guarantee you it's going to be at least 25 to 30% lower than their lowest price. Similar product. That's our promise. So I guess we really didn't need the slides. So for us, we are tying up with OEMs across the country. Leather shoes and all are going to come from Superhouse, which is one of the largest exporters in the country. But there are some, for instance, there's no big manufacturer for leather wallets. It's going to come from people who are exporting these across the world. Leather belts are going to come from Kanpur. Leather wallets are going to come from Calcutta. And so most of these names will be unknown in the country because 90% of their business today is export. They actually have people coming in. And a lot of the stuff which we actually end up selling out here will probably not be available in the country at all. A lot of us basically, we all think, okay, getting leather is great. Genuine leather is fine, right? But the thing is, genuine leather, few of us know, is the cheapest form of leather. Then it's top grain and the full grain leather. Full grain leather doesn't even sell in India at this point of time. Very, very few products. So we are working with either large export houses or manufacturers, both of these. In some cases, it could be small. By definition, you're not going to get a huge factory weaving carpets. There are small artisans weaving them in Mirzapur and Bhadohi. But let us say we're talking about ACs. We're talking to the largest OEM in the country. Someone who makes something like 60% of all the ACs in the country and who makes it for even people like Daikin, Hitachi and Panasonic. We're talking to this person to make our ACs. So it's going to be OEMs. So right now, we're focusing on furniture, building materials, fashion, and we will be launching very soon products like in the home electronics and home appliances space. Home electronics would basically, or home appliances would include TV, refrigerator, washing machines, and ACs and everything else. So we are an aggregator. We take all the orders, pass it to the factory. We do the QC at the factory and ship directly from the factory to your home. So we don't really hold the thing and we don't really put it in any warehouse. So which means, you save that money too. So some of it will be sold under our brand. Some of it we are also letting manufacturers put their own brands. Where they have their own brands, OEMs and all, we're letting them put their own private brands. So for instance, there's an OEM. Let's say there's an OEM who's making stuff for Panasonic, Daikin and Hitachi. If he has his own AC brand, it'll be his. Or we will put our brand and we will give the same specs. So it'll be a feature driven brand where we will say, for instance, if we say AC, it'll be a 5-star 1.5 ton inverter AC with copper coils inside, the requisite amount of which will basically go up to temperature of 50-52. This one, which normally costs 45, we hope to be selling for 30,000. So it's going to be it's a very, very feature driven kind of product. Either we'll have a brand or no brand or our own brand. There are products like belts, wallets and all, which will be 80%. There are products like curtains and all, which will be 60-70%. There are products like, let's say, ACs and all, which will be 30-35% or 40%. It will vary based on the product. Tomorrow if we enter into a highly commoditized product zone, maybe it will be 25%. Inventory management, no, we don't have any inventory management. We are basically taking your order for, let's say, 2,500 ACs in one shot across the country and getting it all made, either in India or China. If a AC is coming to your home from some guy making it in Baddi or China, there's a logistics cost. The same cost is borne by us. But on the net, on the actual cost, you'll save that much. So our prices are all inclusive of all taxes and all transportation. And include all the standard guarantees. Market operating price. So which is the net price to you normally. So we'll compare it. Yeah, people put all sorts of vague MRPs. That doesn't mean anything. I'm not talking about that. You have to pay around 50% of the cost when you place an order, and when it goes for production, when it is finally ready to ship, you pay the balance. In small products like wallets and all, which are cost just 300, 500 rupees, you have to pay full money. We will have extremely detailed description of everything. If I put a leather bag, it will say it's full grain, this thick leather, this cow leather, this kind of stuff, this size, this volume, this capacity. You can compare it to any such similar bag across the country. Some cases the brand will be there, some cases may not be there. Brands. Now we have tied up with several OEMs. We have tied up with OEMs across, let's say, Gujarat, Morbi and all, for things like tiles, faucets and the sinks and everything else. Across Kanpur, Calcutta and Badaui and Mirzapur for carpets, belts, wallets and everything else. And we have our own sister concerns which will basically do the sofas, furniture and all. And then we have got across Baddi and Solan manufacturers for doing various home appliances and electronic goods. Going forward, we'll be doing a lot of the fashion stuff too, garments and everything else. So for these, we're tying up with people across the country. Maybe in future it will be. Right now it is not. But in future, this is what we foresee this. Let's say Kajaria wants to test out a beautiful new color. They're not very sure if that color will sell. So they can put it on our platform. If enough people come, they'll sell it. And if they sell it, then that can become a mainstream thing for them. There could be a designer, let's say, making this really nice, sari somewhere in Venkatgiri. But he's not sure whether they'll sell or not. He'll put it up on our site and say, okay, if 8 people come, that's his MOQ. He'll weave it. So for big and small, it's the same thing. You can test the market to see if it'll sell, or you could basically just put your own brand out there and sell it. It's up to you. So for the customer, there's no minimum. You place an order for one, that's fine with us. We have our internal MOQs based on our agreement with the manufacturers, and whenever it reaches, you will know it has. We will tell you it has gone for production. If it doesn't reach in that time, we'll pass that money back to you through your credit card. So usually we'll have an expected time of delivery, and we'll also have, for instance, what is opening on March 1st is only open up to March 10th. If all the orders, if my requisite orders are not met till 10th, your money will be returned. So we'll have that. Going forward, we're thinking basically we'll just do a perpetual thing, where the product will always be there. Let's say it's a very, very simple, high quality white shirt fabric. You put it out there. This is something which will sell throughout the year. But the mill will take only a 500 meter order. Whenever 300 people come together for 500 meters, the order goes out there. You just wait. 99% we will basically return it, because we cannot afford to keep one item across the country, right? So we will basically then, we will work with the manufacturer. We'll tell him to make, instead of 20, he makes 19. That's all. So there's always, 5 to 10% leeway is always there with the manufacturer also. He can also sell it directly to someone else. So we'll not be at a situation we can take a call. But our principal thing is, we'll always return. We can't hold inventory, because our margin on the whole thing is so low that one product, if it is sitting somewhere in my warehouse, can hurt the company. See, for things like furniture, it's a big cost. Huge cost, because furniture requires a lot of space to display and everything else and all. And it varies. It varies from anywhere between 2% of the overall product cost in case of MedPlus to something like 25% to some high-end retailers, luxury products, right? If you're going to a mall and if you're selling a luxury product, let's say, for instance, there's those guys who sell the fancy, let's say cosmetics, for example, Body Shop or Forest Essence. Their sales can't be very high. Their rent may be 30% of their overall sales. Their margins are high. So on the other hand, someone like MedPlus, we are very, very efficient. Some of our rents are just 1% in most of the shops. Max across the country, it's 2%. So it varies along with the product. But anyway, Kumar, so Amazon and Flipkart are already solving for the problem of real estate. They're already selling online. We're solving one more problem, which is the problem of holding inventory, not knowing whether it will sell or not, and basically having to cost for it, because you don't know whether it will sell or not. You have to cost for it, right? So if I basically make 10 and I think I'll sell only 7, then I have to pass on the cost of 3 to you. And that's how basically, and that's what happens usually. And the reason why these things are sold and all is someone has costed for it. The first 7 who bought the product paid the cost for 10 and more. Then the last 3 are thrown away and they end up in stock lots like Amazon or Flipkart and basically are sold for next to nothing. So which basically means there are products which no one wanted. Few people wanted. So we're solving for the inventory. Sorry. See, for us, given that it's an asset-light model, investment is not very high, but we have already put in 15 crores. We are looking to raise further money into this part of batch tag. I'm not talking about the custom furnish, into this specific venture. Even before we started, we put that in, but we are now looking to raise further money. And we are already in talks to do this. At this point, we have, let's say, a reasonable confirmation with at least 25 of them, 25 across the country. So some of it is completely concrete and some of it is not, informal, but actually more, because we have we have got around 15 categories even today. For every category, we got at least 3 or 4 guys already. So it should be more. So happy to give you the number later, but yeah, it's at least that much. DMart is like the Walmart kind of guys. They buy in lot and they basically sell. But the thing is, again, for DMart also, there is someone basically bearing the cost, right? Someone has made it before here, and we don't know if DMart is basically buying everything or not. If let's say if it's DMart's private label, it has asked some manufacturer to make a lakh of units. It cannot assume that all lakh are going to be sold. It has to assume that some will not be sold. And for that, it has to pass on the cost to the guys who sell it. That is there. But again, we're not really looking at products where the distribution is pretty, so there's not much to slash. It's mainly in the high-end products, mainly in stuff like furniture and everything else, where the markup is pretty significant because of the various problems associated with it. That is where we will be. So we're not going to be, mostly we're not going to be there in DMart products. As Kumar asked earlier, will Kajaria sell with us? No, Kajaria will not sell, and neither will Natuzzi sell, right? But Natuzzi also has some other lesser brand, no, not lesser brand, a brand which basically it gives to OEMs, to large private, for instance, it gives this to Macy's and JCPenney's and all across the world. That is the brand we will basically take. So normally that brand also we would actually have to put in our store and sell and do a markup of 20, 30 or 100% or whatever the minute you take it. But now that brand I'm going to pre-sell, make and get. So my markup is still going to be 5%. So we're not talking about Natuzzi Italia or Natuzzi editions. If you're talking about a different Natuzzi, which they sell to retailers. That brand we will be, we are tied up with those guys to sell that. The team of merchandisers basically, just like any e-commerce company, right? So you basically call all the distributors and all. Here in this case, our merchandisers basically look to see who's making what. And they make trips to the places, every place, if you want to get t-shirts, you have to go to Tirupur. And if you want to get tiles, you have to go to Morbi. Similar. So you basically go out there, figure out who is there, which of those guys. So there are people like Kajaria who are selling it directly, as you said. And there's like Natuzzi, which is selling directly out there. Natuzzi doesn't make all of it himself, or Morbi, or the Kajaria doesn't make. So there's other people also making and giving it to this guy. So we go to this guy and say, okay, make for us also. Right, that's right. So they make it for us, and then we basically sell it directly to the customer. So so our job is finding these guys, curating the product and everything else, and then doing the QC on behalf of the customer. I think, okay, it's very, very difficult to put these numbers out, all Excel projections can just go completely awry, that. So no, we are thinking we'd be very unhappy if we at least didn't do, 25 crores per month by the end of the year, if you're not running a 300 crore run rate. So we did a launch. In Book and Save, we did a launch. In 5 days, we sold 70 sofas, 70 sets, which is basically around 21 lakhs odd. So this launch, we think we'll be able to easily do a couple of crores or more. But that is all in Hyderabad. So once we start, putting in the money and advertising across the country, 25 crores per month is easy. And we fully expect that we'll actually just ramp it up very quickly from there. Yeah. Booking starts from, everything is e-commerce, right? We have one experience center in Hyderabad just because we are here, but we are selling across the country. To the rest of the country, it's a pure e-commerce thing. So our goal is to present the product as well as possible on the website and try and answer as many questions as possible through the FAQs, and the deal quotient is what we say. For every product there's something called a deal quotient, which basically tells you what is the saving you get on a similar product. For instance, when we say sofa, we say, okay, this featured sofa is 3+1+1, made in shisham wood or regular wood with mill-made fabric, with this foam, and all, which costs 35,000 with us, and with competitors costs anywhere between 70 to 72. So we're going to tell you feature by, the features of the product, and tell you what it costs with the other guys. We are a factory direct company. So what we do, let me just, go back once very quickly. a lot of it is repetition for you guys, sorry. But see, all of us, love to buy at factory prices, right? Or the best possible prices. Typically, factory prices or wholesale prices, we would say, are the best. But factories can only sell in large quantities. We are a platform which lets people come, buy in single units. We aggregate those single units into a factory batch and sell. So when you're tagging on, you're basically, by coming to us, you're tagging on to the batch, a manufacturing batch. So if a particular factory can make minimum 100 sofas, so 100 of you basically come together, the sofa is selling at the factory price. So it is like, the hometown guy going and buying from a factory out there. He's saying, listen, I'll give you order for 200 sofas. What's my best price? He gets price of 20,000. He goes and, let's say, with all his markups, puts it at 50. Now you're also buying at the same 20 because you also have the same buying capacity. You're also saying, I'm buying the same 200 sofas through our platform. So to explain very quickly, by coming to our site, you're tagging on to a manufacturing batch. So when you tag on, you buy at a factory price.